Welcome back to the Quantum Soul. You guys have sent in some really, really cool stuff on Stoicism and personal growth.
Yeah.
And I am so ready to just dive into it with you.
Let's do it.
It seems like the focus is on silence.
Okay.
Specifically, how it can help us be more magnetic and have a bigger impact, without feeling like we constantly have to be explaining ourselves.
Yeah, it's a fascinating approach, isn't it? This idea that our actions can speak louder than words.
Right?
And that being quiet on the inside can actually give us more influence out in the world.
I love that.
What we're going to be looking at today is a transcript from a YouTube channel, and get this.
Yeah.
It's called The Quantum Soul.
What a coincidence.
I know, right? It seems like they're suggesting that this approach to life is rooted in ancient philosophy, but also very practical self-improvement techniques.
I've always been drawn to that idea of just letting go of the need to explain and justify myself.
Yeah.
It feels empowering,
Yeah.
Like stepping into a quieter kind of confidence.
I can see that.
But then there's also that part of me that's
Right.
is it actually possible to be successful in a world that seems to value self-promotion and constant communication?
Wow.
This source definitely seems to think so, especially when it dives into this whole thing about acting as if you have nothing to lose.
Yeah, that phrase really resonated with me too.
Yeah.
Very bold, almost like a paradox.
It is.
But when you connect it back to the Stoic philosophy that the source keeps talking about,
Right.
it starts to kind of click into place.
Yeah.
The Stoics believe that true freedom comes from focusing on the stuff that's actually in our control, our own actions and choices,
Makes sense.
rather than getting consumed by what might happen as a result, the outcomes.
So by acting as if we have nothing to lose, we're detaching from those potential losses
Exactly.
and freeing ourselves to be bolder.
Yes, and you're silencing those inner voices too, right?
Oh, the doubt and the fear.
The doubt and the fear. Yeah.
I get that.
Think about someone like Thomas Edison.
Okay.
The source mentions him and his famous quote about, finding 10,000 ways that didn't work before inventing the light bulb.
That's a good one.
That's a perfect example of somebody who just wasn't afraid to fail.
Wow.
He saw those setbacks as just part of the process, focused on what he could control, like his experiments, his persistence.
Okay.
And in the end, look what happened. Groundbreaking result.
Such a good example, and it really brings to light that resilience that the source keeps bringing up.
Yes.
But it's not just about outward success, is it?
Right.
The source also connects silence to creativity, better health, and even this idea of noticing synchronicities in life.
Okay.
It makes silence sound almost mystical, like a gateway to some higher level of awareness.
There's definitely a sense of wonder and possibility in how they describe silence. And while some of the claims might be more on the metaphorical side, it's worth pointing out that there's actually a lot of research now backing up the benefits of mindfulness and quiet minds.
So even if we're not talking about mystical experiences,
Yeah.
there's actual evidence that cultivating silence is good for us.
Yeah, for our well-being.
Right.
And even how our brains work.
Fascinating.
Absolutely. Studies have shown that practices like meditation, which are all about mental stillness, can really lower stress, improve focus, and potentially even boost your creative juices.
I like that.
It's wild to think that just by quieting down that mental chatter,
Right?
we might be making space for brand new insights and ideas to pop up.
The source even talks about feeling drawn to nature,
Oh, yeah.
finding echoes of inner peace in mountains and trees and oceans. Almost like nature itself embodies the very stillness the source is talking about.
I think there's a deep connection there between us wanting inner peace
Right.
and the stillness we find out in nature. I mean, for centuries, poets and philosophers and spiritual seekers, they've all found inspiration and solace in nature.
Interesting.
Maybe it's because nature reflects back to us this sense of timelessness, this reminder that our worries and anxieties,
Oh, I see.
they're kind of fleeting compared to how vast the universe really is.
That makes me think of forest bathing.
Oh, yeah.
It's not just about physical exercise, but immersing yourself in the forest, the sights, the sounds, the smells.
Yes.
Letting yourself be fully present.
And that's such a key part of what this source seems to be getting at, the power of being present.
Right.
When we're caught up in our heads, all those worries and regrets and plans for the future,
Yeah.
we totally miss out on the richness of right now.
Oh, I see.
Cultivating silence lets us step out of that internal whirlwind and just be.
Okay, I'm starting to see how these ideas, stoicism, silence, presence, all kind of weave together to make a different way of being in the world.
Yeah.
But I've got to admit, the how-to section in the source felt a little overwhelming. It lists like a ton of specific habits that supposedly make you more magnetic without even saying a word.
True. It is a pretty long list.
Yeah.
But maybe we can group them into themes to make it easier to digest.
Okay, I like that.
Like a lot of them are about what we could call inner work.
Okay.
You know, cultivating calmness, being your authentic self, practicing presence,
Yeah.
developing resilience, embracing humility, and fostering gratitude.
So by working on those inequalities, we sort of radiate a magnetism outward.
Exactly.
It's not about forcing anything. It's about becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts positive experiences.
Precisely. It's about cultivating a state of being that draws people in,
I see.
rather than having to constantly push yourself on them.
Okay.
And then there are the habits focused on outward action, self-discipline, empathy, being consistent,
Right.
and embracing generosity.
There's one pairing that I found super interesting.
Yeah.
Connecting humility with celebrating other people's successes.
Oh, yeah.
It seems counterintuitive, right? We think of humility as downplaying our own accomplishments.
Yeah, that's a great point. And it really shows a different side of humility. It's not about making yourself smaller. It's about recognizing and appreciating what others have achieved.
I see.
It's about being secure enough to genuinely celebrate someone else's wins without feeling threatened.
And that kind of support can be so magnetic, can it?
Totally.
It shows a depth of character that goes way beyond just bragging about yourself.
It does. It reflects an inner confidence.
Yeah.
You know, that comes from knowing your own worth without having to constantly prove it.
We've covered so much already.
I know, it's great.
But before we go any further, I just want to remind everyone watching to subscribe to The Quantum Soul.
Yes, do that.
Like this video and share it with your friends if you're digging this deep dive as much as we are.
Absolutely. Spread the word.
All right, let's keep going with these fascinating concepts.
I'm ready.
The source goes even deeper into some specific ways to cultivate these magnetic habits.
Sounds good.
We'll explore those and
Awesome. Stay tuned.
can't wait. It's cool how the source kind of shifts gears here.
Yeah.
Moving from those big philosophical ideas to more practical advice.
Right.
It's like they're saying, okay, now that we've laid the groundwork,
Yeah.
let's give you some actual tools to use.
Yeah, I was just thinking that it's one thing to talk about the benefits of silence and stoicism, but it's another to actually live it, you know?
Absolutely.
And the source gets surprisingly specific. Like, it even talks about how our physical environment
Okay.
can affect our mental state.
Interesting.
It talks about the power of decluttering our surroundings to declutter our minds.
That's a concept that pops up in so many different traditions.
Really?
Yeah, like ancient feng shui
Wow.
to modern minimalist movements. There's this recognition that our external world can actually mirror and impact our internal state.
Oh, okay.
So by creating order and simplicity in our physical space, we might be inviting that same sense of clarity and peace into our minds. I've totally experienced that.
Yeah.
When my workspace is a mess, my thoughts feel all over the place, like I'm overwhelmed.
I can relate to that.
But what really got me was how the source ties this decluttering thing to our sense of identity.
Oh, interesting. How so?
It's like it's saying not to be so attached to labels and roles,
Okay.
but to see them more as tools we can use, not things that define us,
That's a subtle shift, but a powerful one.
isn't it?
Instead of saying, I am a lawyer, you could say, I am someone who practices law.
Right. Or I am someone who is raising children.
Exactly.
It creates space around those roles.
It does.
So we can step into them when we need to without feeling totally defined by them.
Right, you're not trapped.
So it's not about rejecting those roles, it's more like holding them lightly, recognizing that we are more than just our external identities.
Love that.
Do you think that detachment can make us more adaptable and open to change?
Absolutely. If we're not clinging so tightly to fixed ideas of who we are, we can flow with life's ups and downs so much easier.
So going with the flow.
Yeah, we can
Yeah.
embrace new experiences, shed old patterns, and evolve without feeling like our whole sense of self is threatened.
And this goes back to the concept of timelessness that the source keeps mentioning.
It does, doesn't it?
At first, I wasn't sure what to make of that whole timelessness thing.
Yeah, it can be a tricky concept.
But as we're exploring these other ideas, letting go of attachment, embracing change, cultivating stillness,
Yeah.
I'm starting to see how they all connect to it.
It's like the source is suggesting that by letting go of the past and the future,
Okay.
by quieting those thoughts that keep us stuck in cycles of worry and anticipation,
Yeah.
we open ourselves up to a deeper experience of right now.
And in that present moment,
Yes. Yes.
There's a sense of timelessness, a connection to something beyond the clock.
The Source uses a beautiful analogy to describe this.
What is it?
A still lake reflecting the sky.
Oh, I like that.
Even when the wind whips up waves on the surface, there's that deep stillness underneath.
That's a perfect image.
Isn't it?
It captures what we're talking about perfectly.
It's about finding that inner anchor, that sense of peace and stillness that can handle any storm.
Right.
It's not about denying the challenges. It's about having that core of resilience
Oh.
that lets you navigate those experiences with grace and wisdom.
You know, it's easy to romanticize silence and stillness.
Yeah.
Especially when we're just sitting here talking about it.
Right, in a quiet setting.
But real life is messy. Can we actually function in the world with all its distractions and pressures? If we're always trying to be this detached and serene?
That's a good question, and it's something the Stoics thought about too.
Really?
They weren't saying to withdraw from the world completely.
Okay.
It was more about engaging with the world, but from a place of inner strength and clarity.
I see. So it's about finding a balance.
Exactly. You don't have to become an emotionless hermit.
Right.
It's about cultivating stillness amidst the chaos.
It's like learning to surf.
Oh, how so?
You can't control the waves,
Sure.
but you can learn to ride them.
Yeah.
And the more you practice, the better you get at finding that balance and flow.
I love that analogy. And just like surfing,
Yeah,
there are times when you catch a wave and everything just clicks.
it all comes together.
The Source talks about those moments as synchronicities.
Ah,
Those seemingly random events that feel like they have a deeper meaning.
I was hoping we'd get to that.
You like synchronicities?
I do. They're so fascinating, like little winks from the universe.
Right.
Reminding us that there's more to life than what we see on the surface.
And the Source suggests that the more silence and stillness we have in our lives, the more we pick up on those whispers from the universe.
Like we're tuning our internal radio to a different frequency.
Exactly.
One that's more open to those meaningful coincidences.
I like that.
But does any of this actually make us more magnetic to others, like the Source claims? Or is it more about personal growth for its own sake?
I think it's both. When we cultivate those qualities that the Source talks about,
Like calmness and presence?
yes, authenticity, wisdom, resilience, they naturally radiate outwards. We become more grounded, more confident, more at ease.
And that kind of confidence is attractive, isn't it?
Incredibly.
It's like we're not trying so hard to prove ourselves anymore.
Right.
We're just letting our true selves shine through.
And that in itself is magnetic.
Exactly. And that authenticity gives others the space to do the same.
Yes, it builds trust and connection.
A deeper connection than just surface level stuff.
Absolutely.
Okay, I'm seeing how it all fits together. The inner work, the outer actions, the stillness, and how it affects our relationships and experiences.
Yeah, it's a whole system.
It's not about manipulating people or putting on a show.
Right.
It's about real change that ripples outward, creating a more positive and harmonious world.
I love that. And that brings us to one of the most powerful and maybe controversial parts of this whole thing.
Okay, what's that?
The idea that our thoughts and emotions actually create our reality.
Right.
It gets into quantum physics and the concept of energetic vibration.
Okay, now we're getting into woo-woo territory.
I know, right?
But even if I'm not totally buying the quantum physics part, I do think there's something to the idea that our inner state influences our outer experience.
Yeah, it's a big leap for a lot of people, this idea that what's going on inside us actually shapes the world around us.
Right.
But the Source is saying that when we shift our internal frequency to one of positivity and gratitude, we start attracting more of the same, you know? Our energy becomes like a magnet,
Okay.
pulling in people and opportunities that match our elevated state of being.
So like a self-fulfilling prophecy, kind of.
Yeah, that's part of it.
If we believe in abundance and success,
Right.
we're more likely to act in ways that make those things happen.
That's true, but the Source goes even further.
Okay.
It suggests it's not just our actions, it's our actual energy that's influencing the world.
That's where I get a little lost, to be honest.
Yeah,
It's tough to square with, like, my understanding of how things work.
I get that.
But even if I put aside the whole quantum physics thing,
Yeah.
I can see how having a mindset of gratitude and positivity can, like, have a ripple effect.
Absolutely. When we approach life from a place of appreciation,
Right.
we give off a more positive energy. It's natural.
We're more likely to see opportunities
Yes, and connect with people authentically.
and attract support.
And abundance.
It's like we become a beacon of light, drawing people towards us.
I like that image.
Not in a manipulative way, but just by being who we are,
Yeah.
embodying those qualities that everyone finds magnetic.
Exactly. And this takes us to another important point.
Okay.
The source really emphasizes the importance of action.
Right. It's not enough to just think positive thoughts.
It's not, we got to align our actions with those beliefs and intentions.
So walking the walk, not just talking the talk.
Exactly. And that's where the Stoic idea of virtue and action comes in.
Yeah.
Living in accordance with our values, embodying the qualities we admire in others.
So it's not about passively wishing or hoping.
Oh.
It's about actively creating the life we want.
Yes, becoming the kind of person who naturally attracts those experiences.
Powerful stuff.
And this takes commitment to constantly looking inward and growing.
Right.
The source talks about checking in with yourself regularly, asking, am I living in line with my values? Am I taking actions that support my goals?
Yeah.
Am I being the person I want to be?
It's like holding up a mirror to yourself.
It is.
Making sure what's inside is reflected in what you do.
And if it's not, you adjust, you course correct.
Yeah.
You keep striving to become the best version of yourself.
There's something so empowering about that.
Isn't there?
We have the power to shape our own reality, attract the experiences we want, become magnets for good.
It's a message of hope and possibility.
It is.
And while it's important to, approach these ideas with a healthy dose of skepticism,
Right.
I think there's a lot of wisdom here.
I agree. It's definitely given me a lot to think about and even more to put into practice.
Me too.
What about you? What's your biggest takeaway from this deep dive?
What really sticks with me is how the source blends all these different ideas together.
Yeah, it's quite a mix.
Stoicism, silence, personal magnetism, even quantum physics,
Wow.
to create this coherent and inspiring message.
I love that.
It reminds us that real transformation happens on multiple levels, from the work we do on ourselves to the energy we send out into the world.
Beautifully said. And for everyone watching, what resonated with you the most? What sparked your curiosity?
Yeah, we want to hear from you.
What action are you going to take to bring more silence, stoicism, and magnetism into your life?
Leave a comment below.
Let us know.
And remember, even if you only change one small thing today,
yeah.
you've already started.
And that journey, my friends, is the ultimate power move.
It is.
If you liked exploring silence and magnetism with us today,
check out the 2 videos on your screen.
they offer even more insights into living a life of purpose and fulfillment.
Click on one.
And continue your journey of self-discovery with a quantum soul.